Hello, my name's Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. It's the end of the week, Friday, November 21st, 2025. We're at 777 days. I have lots of news updates from the last 24, maybe 48 hours. Israeli airstrikes the last couple of days have killed a few dozen people in the Gaza Strip. Yesterday, 5 people were killed, 18 others were wounded, primarily in the area of Khan Yunis. Medics said that one strike on a house in Khan Yunis killed 3 people, including a baby. A Hamas spokesperson yesterday accused the Israeli military of changing the markings in Gaza that define areas still occupied by Israel, which is a violation of the agreed upon maps. The day before, on Wednesday, at least 33 Palestinians were killed, including 20 women and children. That was just 48 hours after the UN Security Council adopted Trump's 20-point peace plan. The Israeli military said in a statement that several militants had opened fire on their forces near Khan Yunis without causing injuries, and that's why they responded in striking Hamas, quote, terrorist targets across the Gaza Strip. Israel has killed more than 280 Palestinians since the ceasefire began on October 10th. Heavy rain and flooding in Gaza over recent days has resulted in around $4.5 million worth of damage. That includes 22,000 tents, spoiled food and medicines, and damage to infrastructure. Israel this last week asked the International Criminal Court to throw out an arrest warrant against Prime Minister Netanyahu and to disqualify Chief Prosecutor Karim Khan from pursuing the case. In the filing, Israel said that Khan's decision to seek a warrant for Netanyahu in May 2024 might have been an attempt to discourage Khan's aide from pursuing a sexual assault allegation against him. Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday applauded President Trump's peace plan in response to that vote at the UN Security Council. He called on neighboring countries to join Israel in expelling Hamas and its supporters from the region. A spokesperson for Netanyahu later said that expelling Hamas would mean ensuring no Hamas in Gaza, as outlined in the 20-point plan. But there's no clause in that plan that explicitly calls for Hamas to disband or to even leave Gaza. So diplomats have said privately that entrenched positions on both the Israeli and Hamas sides are making it difficult for that plan to proceed forward. It lacks specific timelines and enforcement mechanisms. In Al-Mawasi, a cramped coastal zone in South Gaza, many Palestinians are preparing for their third harsh winter since the conflict broke out over 700 days ago. Many are residing in weakly constructed tents, old, half-destroyed buildings, where there's a possibility of roofs collapsing as the storms and icy winds and water have picked up the spread of sickness and exhaustion. One inhabitant explained how they lack all winter supplies. No blankets, no rugs, no bedding. Diseases are spread among us. Colds, coughs, aches, and this is just the beginning of winter. Though the ceasefire agreement is in place and there has been an increase, at least slightly, in humanitarian assistance, it's been a long, hard process for those in need to both obtain and benefit from it. In the occupied West Bank, Israel has expulsed around 32,000 Palestinians from 3 different refugee camps in the West Bank since the beginning of 2025. A report by Human Rights Watch said that that amounts to war crimes and crimes against humanity. Israeli forces killed 2 Palestinian teenagers in an overnight raid in the occupied West Bank, and Israel plans to seize parts of Sebastia. Sebastia is actually a significant archaeological site in the West Bank, and it has Christian significance as well. That's according to an Israeli government order dated November 12th. The order gives Palestinians 14 days to object to the declaration. Peace Now, which is an anti-settlement watchdog group, said the site is around 450 acres and would constitute Israel's largest seizure of archaeological important land. In 2023, Israel announced plans to develop that site into a tourist attraction. The last time I was in Sebastia, I met the owner of one of the facilities that's at the top of the hill in Sebastia. That was a Palestinian family that would be affected by this decision. 2 18-year-old Palestinians were killed and a 71-year-old 2 18-year-old Palestinians killed a 71-year-old Israeli man and wounded 3 others at the Gush Etzion settlement block this week. You might recall that I was in the car and got a phone call about this attack happening at one of the checkpoints. This is what happened. These 2 18-year-olds killed a 71-year-old man. 3 others were injured. The Israeli military shot and killed the 2 attackers. Elsewhere on the West Bank, Israeli forces shot cameraman Fadi Yassin in both legs while he was covering a protest in the city of Tulkarm. That's according to Al Jazeera. Now, this is quite significant. Ambassador Huckabee has denounced recent settler violence as terrorism and has called those responsible as thugs. I think there's an escalation, he said, branding the attacks acts of terrorism. Israelis can carry out terrorism as well, but most of these people are not actual settlers who live there. That's a very small number, mostly youth, angry, disaffected. These are thugs. Many of them don't even live in Judea and Samaria. They come there to wreak havoc, he said, while referring to the West Bank by its biblical names. Huckabee has noted that settler attacks have been condemned by Israeli leaders and that Jerusalem is pledging to bring those accountable to justice. There have been a handful of arrests in recent days in attacks involving well over 100 Israeli extremists, but there have been no indictments filed for any of the suspects. They've all been released. There have been significant updates in terms of Lebanon. Israel's military had a series of airstrikes in South Lebanon on what it said was Hezbollah infrastructure. Earlier, an Israeli airstrike on a car in the village of Tiri killed 1 person and 11 others were wounded. And then there was also an attack this week where Israel killed at least 13 people and wounded several others in an airstrike on a Palestinian refugee camp in the south of Lebanon. The U.S. has canceled meetings in Washington with the commander of the Lebanese Armed Group Forces, General Hakel, due to a statement issued on Sunday by Lebanese army related specifically to the border tensions that have been happening with Israel. The army accused Israel of insisting on violating Lebanese sovereignty, causing instability, and obstructing the army's deployment in the south. Syrians are uncovering more than 100 mass graves across the country. This is a part of the aftermath of the Assad regime, according to an investigation by the Wall Street Journal. The International Center for Transitional Justice and a Syrian group have also counted together 134 mass graves. Iran yesterday released a Marshall Islands flagged tanker with 21 crew members several days after Tehran had seized the ship without an explanation. The Cyprus-based Columbia Ship Management said the crew are safe and in good spirits. They said there was no allegation made against the vessel. Updates from the U.S. The U.S. and Israel have a long understanding that Israel maintains the qualitative edge when it comes to defense in the region. When asked about the sale of the F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia, U.S. officials said the Saudi jets will not have superior features to those that are in Israel. Trump announced this week that the U.S. and Saudi Arabia have entered into a security agreement, which designates Saudi Arabia as a major non-NATO ally. This deepens the defense cooperation between the two countries. The Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, said earlier that he would increase Saudi investments in the U.S. from $600 billion to $1 trillion. The Trump administration announced several of these deals, including the Saudi purchase of nearly 300 U.S. tanks. MBS told Trump this week that he's ready to work towards Saudi Arabia joining the Abraham Accords and normalizing relations with Israel, but we want also to ensure that there's a clear path forward to a 2-state solution. Trump defended MBS. This was quite significant. It was kind of hot off the press this evening, saying that the Crown Prince has done incredible things in terms of human rights. When asked about the murder of Khashoggi, Trump interjected and said, things happen, but MBS knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. That's despite a 2021 CIA report that found MBS had approved an operation in Istanbul to capture or kill the Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. A federal judge yesterday blocked the Trump administration from ending temporary protected status and work permits to more than 6,100 Syrians while a legal challenge is proceeding, ruling that the abrupt termination likely violates legal procedures and was potentially influenced. Finally, I wanted to close just with some words from Cardinal Pizzaballa of the Latin Patriarchate. His Beatitude of Jerusalem gave a message about peace. He said, only those who recognize their fragility and the need for mercy can become instruments of reconciliation. Only justified hearts can justify. Only pacified hearts can dare to make peace. He said this in a meeting in Rome on October 26th as he presided over a Eucharistic liturgy all about daring for peace. Reflecting on the gospel, his beatitude drew a sharp contrast between the Pharisee and the tax collector, one who trusts in his own righteousness and the other who stands humbly before God, aware of sin and the need for mercy. It is God who justifies, who does justice, he said. He does so by forgiving, because his forgiveness makes us worthy to stand before him, reestablishing the covenant between men. Peace then begins not with power or moral superiority, but with truth, the truth of our hearts before God. Recognizing our weakness allows God to act in us. When we recognize our need for mercy, we also allow others to show us mercy. And mercy is the foundation of justice, on which a solid and true peace can be built. May it be so. May peace come to the Holy Land and wherever we may be. In the name of Christ. Amen.